Hey everybody, how you guys doing? Let me just announce quick on the YouTube, I'm going live. They love to censor when I go live on this shit. It drives me freaking nuts. Alrighty. How is everybody doing today? Crazy, man. Crazy. Literally the third bank in a row. We predicted literally in a row. Credit Suisse and UBS. And now you're talking the Deutsch. And that's going down pretty quick here. Pretty excited time. I'm sorry I was a little late here. I got off late today. And if I didn't let Murphy out, trust me, you guys would have regretted it. You definitely would have regretted it. He was nuts. He was alone all day. I'm just letting some people jump in here quick. You want to watch the intro? Don't know if I've even played that intro before, dude. Let me pull it up. Let me pull it up quick. We'll play the intro while, play the intro quick while, I don't even know where it is anymore.
You've been waiting for a while, but he's back around.
Y'all tell anybody I'll kill you! I'll kill you!
He's crackhead in the town.
Peanut butter and crap thing.
He's having back in a joint. Now he's
Look out, crack! Here I come!
He's Tyrone.
Let's go. Had to do it. I had to do it. We're celebrating a little bit. We're celebrating a little bit. Everything is going according to plan, my friends. If you were just looking at everything around the economy, you know, how the market's set up, how everything is set up in the system, I mean, this is bound to happen. There's nothing these guys can do about it. And I'll get into that later. And I'll get into the number one question people keep asking me now is, if all this is going down, why did we, need to do this with AMC and the vote, and why didn't we just stay put? And I'll get into that towards the end here. I just want to go over what's happening right now, so people understand. Hopefully, people that weren't listening to me before, you guys protect yourself, because this shit's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be like it on crack. I'm telling you, it's gonna be like 2008, but way, way worse. So let's go over all the stuff going on right now. The banks basically have stopped lending to each other. Everybody is over leveraged at this point. As we've shown you guys before, and the thing is, it's why I think it's going to get real interesting here, is all these big banks are over leveraged. And they were writing ISDA contracts all the time. They were collecting on these fees, and that was a lot of their collateral. And a lot of the things you guys are hearing is liquidity's drying up. But the thing they don't say is collateral is drying up also. And that's what's you're starting to see now come out, and it's going to get real interesting because nobody has it. The reason I thought the 9-month contracts were going to be the thing that would end this is because people that opened up a 9-month contract instead of a 1 year, they obviously are having money problems, or they would have opened up the 1 year. The one thing I do want to say to everybody, I know this sucks ass, and I know this has been a long ass process. And like I said, you guys, we're climbing Mount Everest. Not many people can do it. They can't. It's hard as fuck, but I know we didn't plan on all of us holding this long. But the thing is they didn't plan on us holding this long either. And they tried to kick it down a couple more months, and that's the one thing that I've been trying to stress to everybody. With them, right now, we're all sitting here, we're buying, people are holding. I mean, I know a lot of people are strapped, I know a lot of people have lost some money, but these guys are literally over-leveraged in every single way possible. It's getting harder and harder for them to hide this. They're losing more and more collateral in the background. The middle class is dying off, which means that their businesses are doing worse and worse and worse. You see these guys closing down branches. Nobody's getting mortgages. We're getting all that in a second. But the second you see this, the banks stop lending to each other. It's because all these smaller banks, they don't have that collateral. They can't go up to these banks now. And this is why you're seeing collapse. Phase 6 is why you're going to see collapses. And this is why I'm saying, this is why you're going to start seeing the small banks and all these other people going away. They couldn't open a new contract. A third party is now watching them. And these third parties are not, I mean, I feel like ever since these third parties have taken over, you're seeing a lot of these people. I mean, obviously there's still a whole bunch of problems going on. They take weeks and weeks to process, which still sucks. Everything is so far behind. It's so stupid. But the more these get processed, the more these come out, the more, you know, we'll get into Credit Suisse in a second, but they have trillions of exposures in the derivatives market. Trillions. UBS, we'll get into them in a second here too, but they saw all this problems and they were about to run. And the problem is every single bank is in this situation. And this is why I was stressing to everybody so bad, get into a credit union. Because if you guys look at it, before I get into all this stuff, I just want to go into credit unions quick. Credit unions, you guys, I'm telling you, they're the safest place right now. Why do I say that? Credit unions, first of all, they have most of your average Joe, your workers. Well, they don't have 250K. Most people in credit unions are insured. So the risk of them running away from the banks isn't there because they're already insured. Now, a lot of people talked about Silicon Valley, but basically none of their deposits were insured. That's why it happened, because everybody took off because they weren't insured, because it's made for startup companies. So most of them had over 250K. That is not the case in most of these credit unions. They don't go out and do all these exposures to derivatives market. So you're not going to get these massive bank runs on these credit unions. And a lot of people go, well, and yes, they do have a chance of defaulting on a ton of car loans. But the difference with the credit union, they have way better rates on these. You will always get a better rate at a credit union than a big bank. Always. So, yes, they could default, but their chances are they have lower payments than they would have been. So they're not sitting there getting these $700 payments like these guys are doing from JP Morgan and doing from these big banks. Showed you guys how it was almost $700 a month for a car now. It's insane. But what people don't realize is when this debt ceiling is maxed, okay, the FDIC cannot be raised. They cannot raise this. And they maxed it out in 1 week on one bank. They always want you guys to say, oh, your money's so safe. It's cradled in this perfect thing that cannot go wrong. But yeah, what happens now? What happens if they don't raise the debt ceiling and another bank goes under? FDIC's, they're already maxed. What do you want them to do? Now, the government will have to step in no matter what, because now every bank is a systemic problem. Because every bank now... Dude, this is going to get really, really interesting. See, this is my theory right here. The reason why they hit some of these small banks and wanted everybody to get out. Hey, go to the big banks. We're not going to bail out all these small banks. We'll bail out the big banks. Everybody go to the big banks. Is because of lack of collateral. That collateral is now gone on the big banks. Why? Because they had these is-the-contract fees. They had these is-the-contracts in the background, just like Archegos. They had this collateral. They had this coming no matter what. That's gone. That unlimited stuff is gone. So what do they need? They need deposits in their banks. Why? Because now it's fully back guaranteed collateral. So I feel like this was their attempt to be like, crap, contracts are running out. Contracts are running out. We need to make that money up. We can't, at this point especially, take these hits. So, sorry, my wife is calling me. So, that's my theory on why they're trying to push everybody now to these big banks. Also, credit unions, like I said, they don't even use that insurance. So the chances of that insurance getting maxed out compared to these other ones is way, way, way less as well. You're also they're non-profit. We'll get into all this stuff in a second here. But like I said, I've been trying to push people to credit unions because I believe that's where your safest place is. That's where your money is the safest. They don't go over leverage the shit out of themselves like all of these banks. But so once you hear Jim Cramer start talking about banks, you know.
The real problem with Credit Suisse, which is the analog, is they never made any money. Deutsche Bank is actually very profitable. So let's start there. Why bail out a bank that is just a chronic loser versus a bank that's doing
and
well?
This is my point. Anytime you see Cramer and all of these guys talk about it, instantly you know they're trying to fuck you. And this is what sucks about anyone who does YouTube. You had pieces of shit like Matt Kors that turned on the community, and that instantly means everybody's just in it for money. Nobody's in it to help us. And there are actually a couple people out there that do want to help the community. They do see what's going on. I have a kid. I don't want my kid growing up. Can you imagine if you are a father, a mother, can you imagine your kid's life growing up 10 years, 15 years, 20 years from now? If we don't do something now, if they continue to just print and bail these people out and continuously act like, what are they going to inherit? What are they going to inherit? Seriously. We just inherited 2008 on crack, and instead of fixing it, they just printed more. Inflation's coming. There's a lot of problems that are going to start coming. Like I said, if you guys haven't got your AMC popcorn yet, get ready, because this stuff's about to start right now. There's nothing they can do to stop this at this point. You cannot kill your middle class the way the United States economy is set up. You can't. That's why I keep saying there needs to be a MOAS or a reset of some kind. It has to happen. You've pretty much killed off your middle class. You siphoned everything out. And now you're going to start watching companies go under. You're going to watch mortgages default, loans default. It's about to get real crazy. These guys are next. Credit default swaps flew through the roof. Everybody knows what's happening. The writing's on the wall. It was on the wall about a year ago. That's why I was saying these are the three banks. There's nothing they can do. These guys are so fucked, so over-leveraged. You got to look for the corruption, the most corrupt banks. And if they're not going to get bailed out, there's nothing these guys can do. This shit is so insane. The risk that the U.S. banking turmoil cannot be contained. Of course it can't be contained. Every fucking bank is over-leveraged. And it's not like they're just a little over-leveraged. They're insanely over-leveraged. And now you have banks that are in shitty situations or shittier situations bailing out banks that are bankrupt. Oh, here, take a whole bunch of shitty toxic assets, even though you're already over-leveraged 200 to 1. And that's my point. What the hell? This cannot go on forever. Trillions cannot be hidden, passed around, bailed out. Eventually, we're going to wake up. They only got away with it this time because they go, oh, our federal loan program, oh, it's going to just pump in $2 trillion to the banks, and it's all good. It's to save your deposits. Again, the media lies to us. It's for your benefit. No, it's to bail out these banks that are continuously making shitty bets that won't go away. They took out $130 billion was lost. From the week of March 8th to March 15th, $130 billion was taken out of commercial bank deposits. Just left. That means they either went into treasuries, they went into precious metals. There's all sorts of things they could have done, but it got taken straight out of the deposits, went into bigger banks. Fucking goddamn banks. U.S. banks are sitting on $1.7 trillion in unrealized losses. $1.7 trillion. And that's not even counting derivatives. That's unrealized losses on bonds. Treasuries. This is going to be insane. And like I said, you're going to see it in the housing market. And what's going to happen? The Fed's number one asset are mortgage-backed securities. And those assets are going to lose value. They're going to lose their value when they bought at the top to bail out the banks from people that were defaulting on their loans. Like I said, there's nothing that these guys can do to stop this. They either need to say, hey, we need a MOAS, or they're going to keep raising rates and just everything is going to get fucked. And they're just going to have to I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to get crazy. Speaking of UBS. So, UBS gets that giant bailout. What's the first thing they do? They buy back $3 billion in bonds. So basically, the taxpayer paid off their bonds for them. Oh, you guys were all fucked up? Let us pay off your bonds. What's the next thing that you see all of a sudden with them? UBS, Credit Suisse, among banks facing U.S.-Russian sanction probe. Right after. Oh, crazy. Thanks for paying our $3 billion debt off. By the way, we're getting probed for sanctions. Now, on top of that. Damn it, where the hell did they go? I just showed you guys last time. They just got fined again from the South Korea. So basically, they're getting bailed out. They're using the taxpayer bailouts to pay off all their fines that they couldn't afford. And they're going, everything's okay. No worry. Like I said, what's going to happen if another bank goes down? There's no one to bail you out. If you have 250K over, you're still not that safe in a big bank unless the government steps in. The last time you saw this much loans facilities used, right? When was it? Oh yeah, 2008. And now look at today. It's just an isolated to one bank. No, you used 300 billion in 1.5 weeks. What's going to happen when that's all used up and phase 9 or 9-month contracts come up? It's already used. You can't keep making unlimited facilities. I don't know what they can do to get out of this mess other than let a MOAS happen and put money into your middle class, because in the end of the day, it's going to go right back to them, and now their businesses can thrive again and they're rich again. We need a reset because this has been so fucking corrupt for so long. It's so stolen. It's so deep. It's so everybody is involved. Politicians, regulators, banks, like everyone, judges. Dude, this is insane what is going on. I don't know where this is coming from. All the media. It's coming out of the blue. No one saw this coming. Anybody that looked in the derivatives market saw this coming the second they looked at the derivatives market. 4 quadrillion? You can't hide 4 quadrillion. Sorry. Everything that they did basically over the last couple weeks of selling off, guess what? They just re-added. Good job, feds. You just re-added with toxic shit loans from these guys, these banks that need a bailout. Continuously, the feds are like, well, we're going to have to raise rates to fight inflation, but we'll bail you out. You can't do both. It is impossible. Now, with these 3 banks, there's a family office that is tied to all 3 of those banks. And when those banks finally crash down, that family office will be the fucking bomb that I've been waiting for. There's over 6 trillion in family offices. There's 3.6 trillion in hedge funds. These family offices are unregulated. You have no idea what they're doing. These guys could be so messed up right now, we would never know. And as bad as these banks are, most of these family offices are ex-hedge funds that they kept getting fines and fines and fines and in trouble. And then they go, fuck it, I'm just going to go unregulated. And now I'm a family office. I'm not going to get in trouble anymore. So the shit these family offices are doing behind the scenes like Archegos, we don't even know yet. That problem hasn't even came out yet. Everyone in the world is so over leveraged. What do you do when people in your country that are considered to be the richest are actually poor? This is why I'm saying they either need a CBDC to re-stimulate the economy, or they need this MOAS to stimulate the economy. There's no in between. They can't keep pushing it a couple more days, a couple more days, a couple more months, a couple more months. Your housing, like I said, your housing market's already on the brink of crashing. Keep going. See if it doesn't. It's gonna. Like I said, this what is happening in front of our eyes is nuts. And every time they raise the rates, guess what? These unrealized losses goes up higher. Like I said, this shit blows my mind, and every single thing that hey, the media, they're here to expose corruption. No, they're here to hide corruption. They're here to sell you, we need your money. If we don't have your money, oh well, you're fucked. Ponzi schemes need constant money coming in. That's why I say, get it out. Go to credit unions. If everybody's in a credit union and it's all of us, there's no risk of a bank run. We're all insured. I just showed you, we don't have 250 fucking cages chilling around that we're worried about at risk. We're not going to go bank running. Credit unions, that risk is not there. Like it is with these, I used to say local, but then this all comes up and all this exposure. It's like, no, just go to a credit union at this point. Get out of the profitable banks. Credit unions are non-profit. If it's not a non-profit bank, get the fuck out of it. Everybody forever was talking about market makers, market makers, market makers, market makers. The banks have always been the entire root of all evil. Everything starts with them, everything stops with them. Cut their head off and you win the game. I've been saying that since day one. Everybody get out of the banks so you're safe. And if everybody's out of them, they're really not too big to fail to. Are they? If everybody gets out of them, everybody starts moving their loans. They're not really that, going to be a super risk other than to all these other shitty super rich companies. Well, fuck them. You're going to have to pick one of either all these rich people that apparently own the United States or your people. There's no more kicking the can down the road. Like I said, 9-month contracts is going to get insane, people. Insane. But what I see for the next couple squares, you're going to see a ton, and you're going to start seeing the house prices start crashing down. You're going to see a lot of defaults. You're going to see a couple more of these banks, or maybe a whole bunch of these banks start coming crashing down. And then what's going to happen? Tons of finger pointing because they can no longer hide it. No, it's them. It's them. It's them. Like I said, you cannot keep making credit facilities. Make repos over $2 trillion. You can't have $20 trillion in loans. You can't have $22 trillion owed to your people. The United States owes its people $22 trillion. $22 trillion out of our $31 trillion in debt is to you. You. There's a quote that I always say, and this is what the United States likes to do. There are two ways to conquer and enslave a nation. One is by the sword, and the other is through debt. The United States looks at all these people and go, man, all these countries suck ass. Look at, they use the sword to control and enslave and dominate their people. But in the back, they're stabbing you, they're standing behind you, and they got a back to your back. They're just controlling you through debt. I don't use the sword, but I use debt, and I control you probably just as bad, if not worse. Because now I control every aspect of your life as long as you live. Like I said, this shit is insane, you guys. Every time they raise rates, that's less and less for your middle class to be able to have access to borrow. Now what? Yeah, of course, it's just AMC and Ape that have market glitches, dude. That they're going to do any and everything they can. And that's why, like I said, I don't sit there and teach people TA. I don't tell people these stocks. I have a couple times when I know for a fact it's going to run with Plunge Team and other things like that. I don't tell people my plays. The only reason I bring up AMC is it's been going on for years with all this corruption in the back end, all this fill, all these 203 fill before locates that have been going on for years and years and years. There is no way there's another stock out there in my mind after knowing what I know and learned that is like AMC at this point. There's none. There was too many people buying it for too fucking long. Way too long. Dougie Fresh himself, a market maker himself, literally said that, like I showed you last video. We can make shares at any moment and we have infinite liquidity. If you have infinite liquidity, you have infinite demand or supply, which curves demand, you can make price whatever you want. And all he does is call it size improvement. No, it's called stealing. Thomas Jefferson. I believe sincerely the banking establishments are more dangerous than standing armies. They knew this was going to happen. They knew it was going to happen way back then. When this was all getting set up, you're giving too much power to individuals and corruption's all around every fucking corner if you do that. And what do you know? It's been going on forever. It's been going on for so long at this point. Like I said, there's nothing they can do to stop it. It's in the trillions. No, let me rephrase that. It's in the quadrillions, people. Quadrillions. Like I said, guys, this shit is insane what is going on. You cannot kill your middle class, and that's exactly what they're doing. If you have nobody to feed your Ponzi schemes, there's nothing for them to do but collapse. Now, why I wanted to do the vote on AMC, even though I figured this was going to happen around this time, is because now that these guys are running out of collateral, if we do this and then AMC pays off the debt, I believe fundamentally it will raise the stock. And if we do this and then an offering goes out, let's say some of these guys go out and buy it. They go, fuck, we got to get out of this position because they finally killed the short thesis. And not only did they finally kill the short thesis, we're so over leveraged and there's nothing left to fight here. We got to get the fuck out of this. They cannot go open more ISDA contracts, and they are not lending to each other. What you got is what you got. And when these banks have nothing else left, this is when your MOAS happens, because they have to collect on their ISDA contracts. They got to do it now. And then if you're going to open up more, they got to make it harder and harder for you to open new ones. They need more up front. They need higher fees. They need all this, which makes it harder and harder and harder on these guys to keep this hidden collateral. Like I said, they had unlimited hidden collateral. They kept on pushing margin requirements back. And everybody, it's not an excuse on why something didn't happen if I can show you legal documents or the regulators literally saying we did this because this was going to happen. That was like the dumbest thing for the entire time of me making a video. If anything ever took an extra couple days, that's the exact same thing everybody would say. It's like, problem is, it's everything in this market, even though we have computers, which process in what, nanoseconds? But apparently in the market, we need to take days to process. Why? Only in the financial system, just because the Ponzi scheme doesn't work otherwise. Bring Trey back. Man, I messaged Trey once like a month back. I didn't get a response. I think he's pretty much gonzo. I mean, I did his last video with him. I mean, I feel like I showed Trey quite a bit of stuff, and he was like, what the fuck? He didn't know really about too much about the derivatives, all this corruption. And like I said, since I've made videos, that's all I've talked about is corruption. Every video I've ever made is pretty much about corruption. If we don't expose it, if we don't know what the fuck we're fighting, we can't do the right ways to beat it. It's all about educating everyone else, everybody you know. You now know what is happening, what's going on, and why. Make sure everybody else does. Alright guys, I gotta go. My wife just got home. Thank you for joining. I will be live again on Sunday morning with Peter. Have a good night.